Why, hello there! My name is Kenji Dick.
And I'm Claudia Duick.
And this is Wittenberg Radio. It is the first episode of the year, episode 110, and it is January 9th, 2018. Woo! Wow, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. We do hope that you have a wonderful Christmas and a wonderful New Year, but it's good to be back here in the school, even if it is really early. Claudia, how was your winter break?
Oh, my winter break was wonderful. I learned how to knit socks. I watched a lot of movies and read an entire book for fun, not for notes or for school.
Yeah.
A long one I'd been meaning to read for a while. And I spent a lot of time with family and, yeah, normal Christmas stuff. I didn't go anywhere this year. Last year I went to a lot of places. So this year I really just decided to
lay back and relax,
sit at home and be happy and relax. Yeah. How was your break?
It was great. Me and my family, as usual, went to Edmonton to visit up with other family. It was a pleasant time. Very similar situation over here. Watched a few movies, had a few laughs, had a few good times. It was overall a really pleasant experience and really nice, relaxing 2 weeks. But of course, it is now school once again. It's time to get back into the heat of things. And to be honest, I'm a little bit ready for it. I think I'm a little bit ready for it. Maybe I'm a little bit disappointed it happened so soon. But at the same time, though, it's good to be doing something instead of nothing. So
it's very true. It always comes by fast. It goes by fast.
Yeah.
And then we're here again, and it's like, where did the break go? But we're glad to be here.
We're glad to be here. Let's talk about upcoming events.
Yes. So talking about books, Kenji, why don't you tell us about books that are expensive?
That's right, Claudia. What the new semester means new textbooks. And that means you're probably going to have to look around for new textbooks. And if you're a little bit concerned about the, perhaps pricey textbooks in the bookstore, we are going to once again recommend the Facebook page CMU Classifieds 2017 to 2018. If you're hoping to buy a used textbook for slightly cheaper or to sell textbooks of the past to other students that may be taking those courses so you can earn some money back, this is a great page to go to. Especially around this time right now, me and Claudia ourselves have now just sold and bought textbooks through this service as well as many others. So if you're looking to save a bit of money or to make a little bit of money with your old textbooks, do by all means go to this page, join this group, CMU Classifieds 2017 to 2018.
In other news, parking changes. There have been some changes to the setup of where you can park, especially as a commuter. But if you've seen your daily, and we're here to remind you again that there has been another slight change. So instead of parking only on North, now the parking lot by the chapel on South, that's lot N, will be available for students parking there after 4:30 if you already have a pass. Or if you need to go buy one, you can go see Shirley on South Campus. This way, there is still an area that you can park on South, I guess limited time, but I guess this is a way to maybe open some more options and not just make you go all the way to North and plan in a 10-minute walk into your routine. There will be more on this later on in the episode. We'll have someone on talking about the parking issue. Otherwise, get ready for some sports events this weekend. There are some basketball games and some volleyball games happening here in the Lowen Athletic Center on campus, so you can go cheer on your Blazers. For times, you can go to cmu.ca/athletics or ask some of your friends that may be on the team or ask anyone that might know. I'm sure I trust you to find out the times. You're all capable humans at university, so you should be able to do it. All right, the parking changes. Let's talk about it. Let's get into this. So, previously, the parking was this way. Commuters were allowed to park behind the residence buildings on South Campus. So that's the parking lot by KFA and by Concord, formerly called Lot P. And as well as on North, Lot A, the large parking lot where everyone can park. There's so much space there. Now, over the break, an email was sent out saying that commuter students were no longer allowed to park on Lot P, but now only on North Campus. This has sparked some discussion on the commuter Facebook page, mostly just people concerned about why this has changed, looking for a good answer, and also voicing some concern based on it's a 10-minute walk now that you have to do in the cold. People were saying they'd maybe even like a refund or a partial refund on their parking pass. Others are saying there should be a parking lot on South devoted to or especially for commuters. So there's a lot of discussion going on about this. Others are going so far as to say that we are second-class citizens being banished to North Side. The last response to the feed was from Laura Welk, one of the commuter assistants, on behalf of them, as well as Danielle Morton, saying that they understand the frustration that this brings, and know that it's a change and we need to get used to this change. It might be inconvenient, but they do say that resident students pay significantly more to park in that parking lot, and we're sometimes not getting, I guess, parking lots because there were too many commuters parking there. They pay $350 a year, whereas commuter students pay only $195 a year, which if you break it down, comes down to about $7.50 a week. That's really a deal. They also said that commuters need to be aware that what they're paying for is not a specific spot, but the electricity and the maintenance and the goal of continued improvement of these lots. They've also made some amendments to the changes. After 4:30, commuters can park on the chapel lot, but not overnight. And then finally, they say that they are committed to advocating for commuters and that they appreciate this response and this discussion, and that this discussion is going to continue with Hostings and Danielle for ways to improve the commuter experience. To continue on this conversation about the new parking regulations at CMU, we have Kenny Wollmann here today to talk to us about his perspective and why he posted what he did on the commuter page. If you don't know Kenny Wollmann, you're missing out. He's a fourth-year BTS student, and he has some things to say. At least he obviously did. He wrote a post on Facebook about these parking changes that I've explained, and he is outraged, and maybe rightly so. Either way, we have him here today. Welcome here, Kenny.
It's good to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, other than, I guess, you're a fourth-year BTS student? Why are you here?
What else is there to know that I'm a four-year BTS student? I'm a student here at CMU. I major in BTS and in history. I've also studied music. I'm in the process of applying to Brandon University. That's pretty exciting and nerve-wracking. I'm the father of... What do you want to study there? I'll be studying education.
Okay.
I'm the father of twin daughters, Holly and Kali, and I commute to school. I live near McGregor, Manitoba, which, if you know Manitoba, I live near the halfway tree on the number 1. And my commute is about an hour and 20 minutes, so I spend about 3 hours every day on the road to come to CMU.
Wow. That's quite the commute. I thought I had it bad, but...
How long do you commute?
Well, it's like 35 minutes, but I live in North Kildonan. I'm not proud of it. But also maybe I am.
Zipping around on the perimeter.
But hey, it's a substantial commute. I mean, it's not where you are, but it's something.
But it's also not in res. I've also lived in res.
Okay.
And the school experience is very different.
Yeah, I've often wondered what res is like.
Yeah.
All right, but to get down to why you're here, I'm interested, why did you post your message onto the commuter page, and what were your hopes in posting that, your initial intent?
Well, like all CMU students, I got the email in December sometime, and I read it and promptly forgot about it. But something must have stuck with me, and on my Christmas break, I went back and carefully reread it because I felt that I must have missed something. I could not believe that my normal parking spot in what is it called? Lot A?
Well, P would be the one on South, right?
P, okay,
yeah.
Lot P. Yeah, I couldn't believe that commuter students would no longer have any parking space on South Side, and I at the time I thought I just must not have read it carefully, and I would go back and read it and figure out what I need to do. So on my Christmas break, I went and searched for the email and carefully read it, and I was quite surprised, and I think what surprised me the most was that there was no explanation given. it's one thing for an institution to implement change, and institutions must do that. But I think it's problematic when it's done without reasonable explanation. And to that end, I thought, well, either I am missing something in the email, or there needs to be a conversation here. So to that end, I went to the place where all the world's problems ought to be solved, and that's social media. So I went to the commuters page and asked the question, hey, have you got the email? What do you think? And there were some interesting responses.
Right. Were you surprised at the feedback?
Somewhat. There are a few times when I regretted making the post. I was very, very cautious when I wrote the first post. In fact, I think I even asked Sherry, my wife, to read it through to make sure that I don't come across as the usual snark that I am. Because I get that, doing things at an institutional level it takes work to do it right and so forth. So, I was surprised, but I also am aware that, this is a university and, young kids. I'm old.
Young kids.
So, yeah.
Well, and I think, I received the email as well, and I was a little bit surprised, but also, you forgot about it kind of, and I didn't think of it high on a priority list coming to the holidays there. I wasn't going to be coming all the time. And then I read the post and I was like, great, someone's like talking about this, and it didn't seem reactionary or too out of hand at the point that I was reading it. And then I saw these comments coming on, and I thought it was pretty funny that this was such a big deal. And so I tuned in to the conversation, and I didn't participate, but there were terms being thrown around like second-class citizen, right? And people raising some, I think, compelling arguments. You wrote that this might, what did you say, reduce us to second-class citizens.
Yep.
Can you explain that and why you feel like you're maybe a second-class citizen due to these changes?
Well, I guess that perhaps is foolish, strong language, but compelling nonetheless, I think, and something to think about. I basically had my parking options slashed by half without explanation. Okay, I think that's an issue. I think given a clear explanation, as was given in the Facebook post, I probably would not have felt that way. And I do realize that res students do pay more, and I've also lived in res, so I know that when you pull in on either Monday morning or Sunday evening, you don't want to, you want to just get your stuff unloaded, and you want to find a parking spot. So I empathize that it must have been a bit frustrating for the res students. But that said, I still feel that it's not an either-or situation. I don't think that, and let me use some foolish language here again, I don't think commuter students ought to be banished to North Campus, okay? I think there should be other options considered. Perhaps the chapel parking lot could be expanded somehow. I don't know the logistics involved in this. There may be something that is way above my pay grade at play here. I honor that and would respect that if I knew it. That's the issue. I don't think we know. And do we have a right to know? I don't know. We pay a bit of money to use these facilities, but again, ought this to be a high priority thing? Ought this to be something we talk about on Wittenberg Radio? I'm entirely unsure.
Yeah.
But it's a bit fun.
Right. No, and that's a valid point. I was thinking that too today. I was talking to some people before this interview, and they were like, really, you're spending a whole episode talking about this? And I was like, well, I mean, not a whole, I guess. Like, there's a music pick. and then the other part of me was like, this is something that's happening here that people are obviously concerned about, and what sort of radio show are we to not give voice to that?
Yeah. And we could also go all philosophical. Like, right. There's a sign on Marpec on the door in talking about parking fees. and it finishes off, "Tow trucks are coming," you know. And this is where you need to insert ominous music, yeah. But is that in line with CMU's claim to radical dialogue and community, and is this what a church or a university that claims to be a university of the church, is that how an institution like that ought to act?
Yeah,
So
good
these are big
questions.
philosophical questions. We could really go down a rabbit hole there, and we'd probably never find our way out again
Right.
either.
And I wonder if that's, I mean, you need people to follow rules, and I think sometimes you need to use strong language like that, or even, I mean, there have been.
Yeah, there ought to be
Yeah.
order. Yes, there
Yeah.
ought to be order. But again, in the maintenance of in maintaining order, we ought not to get carried away and, to use hyperbole again, resort to the sword of the state, you know,
Right.
and threaten tow trucks. So yeah, how's that for hyperbole?
Oh, yeah, that's great. You also wrote that it feels like a pre-Marpec campus.
Yeah.
Do you mean in terms of walking a great distance? I mean, it's small, but walking a distance, is that what you're referring to? Or what do you mean by pre-Marpec comments? For those of us who don't remember one.
Yeah. I was wondering, do people even know what a pre-Marpec CMU looked like? I lived in Petker Basement a few years ago, and when we wanted to go to class at North, you know, we had to go to the corner of Grant and Shaftesbury, wait for the lights, and walk over. And it was kind of nasty in January. And lives got much, much better at CMU when Marpec came. And I guess the reason I coined that foolish phrase is because, again, it goes back to having something taken away and you do not know why. Okay? I think that it boils down to that.
So you care
See,
about the way it was done more than the issue
somewhat,
itself.
yes, but also the reality is 3 days a week I have one class, it's on South, and I need to park on North and walk to my class in D33 and then walk back to my car and go home. And this is not persecution, this is not hardship,
No.
but I also don't think it needs to be that way. There really should be, could be, we can imagine for all of us parking space on South Campus where we are all free. Sorry, this is T speaking.
So there has been talk about the construction of a new parking lot designated for commuters. Would you support that idea?
I don't see why not. If it's well thought out and if it's well located, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Have you thought about the environmental effect of driving and the part of radical church and sustainability that CMU, I think, has a conversation about? Do you think?
Yes, and I'm a 3-hour commuter.
Right, placing. But do you
it's
think
one of the things that
that
bugs me. But I have no workaround.
Right. No, and I guess in your
yeah.
case, I didn't realize you commuted so far.
Yeah.
But this is a conversation, I think, that has taken place here. And we are trying, I think, as a university to be environmentally conscious. And I feel, I mean, this is my own bias, I think, coming in here and my own perspective, but putting another hunk of concrete on our beautiful campus that really has a lot of scenery and, like, the forest is right there. And I mean, sure, there could be place for it, but are we taking a step back
Yes.
in terms of environmental change, or
and
are
I
we
think
a
that's
futuristic
I
university
think that's
that
a
values this?
philosophical question that ought to be wrestled with, and I think it ties in with the fact that CMU is a growing university. One of the responses to that question would be, well, if the infrastructure that presently exists can only support well so and so many students, then what do? Do we arrest the growth? Do we make the acceptance process to CMU more selective and competitive, or how are we going to grow the infrastructure? And that's a big topic. I don't claim to know a lot about it, but the environmental impacts of traveling are significant, and I contribute a lot to that. a while back, CMU had a survey on the environmental footprint of its commuters. I didn't fill out that survey, and it's probably a good reason why I didn't. So yeah, these are things that need to be wrestled with and wrestled well. Yeah.
And I think that another reason that I wanted to do this story was because this is sort of an entry into that larger conversation, because it's a direct result of these things that are very practical, and like people need to get here and we need to be talking about that. Yeah. And others have suggested maybe making alternative forms of commuting more accessible, as in maybe offering a U-Pass for busing for people who live closer. Obviously this wouldn't be there's no buses that go out
there's no buses in rural Manitoba, but it's even interesting to me how this conversation even feeds into a Winnipeg conversation with the recent changes to the transit system. This is an institutional conversation that needs to happen, I think.
Well, thank you for your contribution to it, and for coming on the show and talking about it and getting the conversation started, I guess, on the page. It's been a joy to watch and something interesting for us to see here. So thanks very much for coming.
Thank you.
Kenny's post on the CMU Commuters page opened a wide conversation about the recent changes to parking on campus and exposed the deep frustrations that some are feeling. To get a sense of what the greater student body thinks, me and Claudia have gone around campus to interview both commuter and in-residence students on how they feel about the issue. Here's what they had to say. This is Kathleen Kopp, a commuter student.
I think it's unfair that we have to... Okay, I understand it, but I also think it's unfair because I would be more understanding if the chapel lot, staff parking lot, was always full, but the majority of the time it's half full, and so those other half empty lots are allowed for visitors, but how often do we actually have visitors? And also the MCC church parking lot is also half empty all the time. So what are those? Yes, those spots are reserved, but who's actually parking there? And I think they could be more organized about the days we're allowed to park there. Yes, they are organized about the times, but it's an unfair one. I drive by, because I often drive down Shaftesbury, and see the whole parking lot almost empty, and I have to go across the street. I mean, it's a little inconvenience, but nevertheless, it is an inconvenience.
This is Jordan Neufeld, a commuter student.
Okay, so I think it's ridiculous. First of all, commuters are the ones who actually need parking spaces. If you're a res student and you use your car like once a week, why are you parking the lot where students who actually drive to school need to park in order to get to class instead of just waking up and walking there? Second of all, from just a business standpoint, I guess, at the beginning of the year we paid for a certain amount of parking spaces. Like, we paid so that we could use the south lot. Now you're taking it away and that's not reflected in a refund or any reduction. That's kind of ridiculous. How ridiculous it would be if you walked into Common World, bought a textbook, and then halfway through the year they took part of it away. Like, that'd be insane. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I think it's ridiculous.
This is Joshua Drieger and Lexi Marion. Both are in-residence students.
Yeah, so it was kind of annoying in the fall when commuters would park in the parking lot because, well, first of all, we pay $350, $353.75, somewhere around there, whereas the commuters, like, we pay that to park near our residence so that
and
we...
to have, like, that electricity
and all that stuff. We pay for the luxury to have our cars close, whereas commuters pay like $175, $150, somewhere around there. It's like almost half of what we pay. So I feel like on Facebook there was one person brought it to attention that the whole thing, that they didn't like it, and someone was saying they wanted it cut in half again, the commuters, and I thought that was a little bit ridiculous. But also, there's been many times last fall where I've come back from just going to like Superstore or somewhere to get some groceries, something like that, and I've come back and there's not a single spot in the residence parking lot where I have to like take off my residence parking, go park over there for a while until there's a spot in the resident parking lot. So I like the new rule. The parking lot's still pretty full with all the residents people there. There are spots at the back, but yeah, I agree with the new rule. So
okay. Well, thanks. Do you have anything to add, Alexi?
Well, it is something that we paid for, right? So it's like if I pay for something, I do expect to have it there for me. So that's just my 2 cents.
This is Laura Carr-Priest, a commuter student.
I don't have a car, so my sympathy for this issue is a little off because there are so many other ways you can get to campus. Our parking really isn't the most expensive it could be. Walking from north to south, sure, a little inconvenient, but there's much worse things. I don't know. It seems like it's really exciting that there's conversation around it, but maybe not worth all of the fuss.
This is Maya Jansen, a commuter student.
As a commuter who has a lot of courses on the South Campus, I think there should be a place to park here because I think that we shouldn't downplay the extra hassle that it is to walk from North Campus to South Campus. It's really cold. That's one of the reasons why they built Marpec, so that people could make that walk indoors. And I think that to leave an extra 10 minutes earlier for an 8:30 class is very significant for commuters as well.
This is Micah Ensdick, a commuter student.
So I don't have a big problem with it, really. It's a little bit frustrating, but really, how can you complain? It's just a short walk, and we can all do it. And if it makes it easier for other people, then who really cares? It's just an extra minute, basically, so really.
This is Mark Holmes A. Court, a commuter student.
Again, first thing I was saying was just that it's not too big of a deal to walk the extra 5 minutes, but then also at the same time, maybe if you're a musician or something who has to play in the chapel or has to rehearse over there, and you have electric instruments and stuff, you need to bring some people might have to bring an amp or something in, and they walking all the way from north is way too far, I think, because you can't lug all your gear. And then also, it just adds an extra 5 minutes or so to the commute. So already, my commute's 40 minutes to an hour, so
right.
Adding that is it's okay, but it kind of sucks, especially in the morning.
This is Brooklyn Jade Taves, an in-residence student.
Yeah, I don't know. The parking doesn't affect me terribly much. I haven't ever really had trouble finding parking spots no matter what time of day, and it is walking outside a little bit all the time, but in terms of how long you're walking outside, it's a minimal amount. I walk more outside when I'm going back and forth from classes than I do for parking.
Mm-hmm. Right, and you're a res student that has a res parking pass, so you park on the student parking lot near where you live.
Yeah, I don't park anywhere else.
Okay. And you've never had trouble finding a parking spot there?
No.
Okay.
This is Cesar Miranda, a commuter student.
I think people should cycle more to CMU. That would take care of the parking problem.
If you would like to add your own voice to the discussion, then you're in the right place. You can leave a comment on our website, our Facebook page, or our YouTube channel. Or if you'd like to leave a comment in the traditional Protestant way, you can leave it on the Wittenberg door right beside Shirley's office. We are more than happy to include more opinions here on this show, and we'd love to hear yours. So please do consider those options.
My music pick for this week is a song by a band called the Lemon Twigs. It consists of two brothers who live in New Jersey. They're young, they're 19 and 17, and they have been playing music together for, I think, their entire lives. They grew up listening to the Beach Boys and the Beatles, and they cite them as their greatest influences, and you can definitely hear that in their music. It's got this old-timey feel, and yet it's brand new, and they're super young, so it's exciting. It's really good music, and the song that I have for you is called I Want to Prove to You. It's from their new album, Do Hollywood, and please do go check out their music video. It's pretty funny, and well done. So take a listen.
I want to prove to you my love is extended, my love never ended, my passion befriended yours.
All right, let's get a pickup, and then we're...
And that about does it for this week's episode of Wittenberg Radio. Thank you again very much for listening to the show. Remember to tune in next week. Again, if you're looking for textbooks used or planning to sell old textbooks from previous courses, do check out the CMU Classifieds page, 2017 to 2018. Do remember to check out those awesome sporting events that Claudia also mentioned earlier.
Yes, and most of all, or maybe not most of all, but definitely since it was the topic of this show, please give us your feedback on the parking regulations that have happened. If this affects you or if you feel strongly about this, please contact us. Give us your feedback. You can contact us through our website, our YouTube page, our Facebook page, or you can do it the old-fashioned way and write a note on the Wittenberg door, and we will be sure to include you in our further discussion surrounding this topic.
Awesome possum. My name is Kenji Dick.
And I'm Claudia Duick.
And we'll see you next week.
Wittenberg Radio is a production of CMU Student Council. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and guests are not necessarily those of CMU Student Council.